From KPRC2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome HISD Superintendent Mike Miles to Houston Newsmakers. Thank you for making this time.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're new to the area. You've accepted this leadership role during what is a very challenging time for all educators, but especially HISD. They've been under a microscope for so long. Why did you decide that you want this challenge?
So, I'm a public servant. I'm a professional public servant. I've served as an Army officer, diplomat to Poland, Russia, was a teacher, principal, and in my education career, it's always I've always served the underserved. And so when the call came out, I knew that this was an opportunity to serve a whole bunch of kids, many of whom are underserved or underprivileged, and so I wanted to help.
What about your upbringing has prepared you for some of this? Sometimes when people take these kind of jobs, there's something about their background that kind of tells you, okay, this person was made to do this or not, whatever. What about your background has prepared you for what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think we're all, partly a product of our experiences. So I guess, first of all, I grew up poor. One of 8 kids. My father's black, my mother's Japanese. She didn't speak English, so I identify a lot with people whose first language is not English. My dad was in Korea and Vietnam quite a bit in those days, and so we didn't have a lot. But the one thing I did have was education, and my parents pushed education. My mom couldn't speak English, but she knew that education was the way to change your stars. And I had teachers who helped me. I had a speech impediment. I couldn't pronounce words. I couldn't speak properly or be understood. And I had a couple first grade teachers who took me by the hand, and they did not say, poor kid, let's cut him some slack. He's one of 8, he can't speak, and he comes from poverty, broken home, or it wasn't really broken, but my dad wasn't there. And they didn't say that. What they did say is, you can achieve, we're going to teach you, and they did. So that, I think that helped a lot.
We talked a little bit before we started taping. My background is around educators, and I know what they push toward me as well. TEA has said that's what they want for HISD as well. But as this has happened, there's been protests, and those protests have been visible for quite some time. They happened many months before the state stepped in and really heated up when it looked like a certainty was going to happen. The community meetings that you set up, they were set up really to give information to the parents. They turned into shouting matches in some places by parents and activists. Your board meetings with the new board of managers in place got off to a rough start with some of the people there being dragged off the premises. And now with arrests having been made for disruptive people. Now the most recent meetings have been less tumultuous, but I want you to listen to this. See, these people have been holding signs up, thumbs down, to let you know what they're thinking. Watch and listen as you talked about the need to focus on the task ahead.
Let's not make light of the fact that this job is going to require all of our team, all of you, and actually members of the community to have courage to do things differently, to hear things that are not true.
So how challenging is it for you to conduct business with all of that going on? It's quieter now, but it's still pretty obvious, people holding up signs and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's totally understandable that when people don't have information and there's going to be change, that there's going to be anxiety, fear, and protest. That I'm used to, and I understand it. And so the task is to provide information. And even last night, you saw that the further we got in, and they heard more about Destination 2035, it actually calmed down, or at least I could sense that, right? I had my back to the audience because it's a board meeting. Right. It's not, I'm not performing for the public. I am presenting information to the board in public. And so that was the task. And as long as we can get our work done and we can explain to the board so that they can make good decisions around what we have to do, the path forward, then it's fine. And I thought last night was a good board meeting.
So one of the things that you brought up in the meeting, and I want to ask you too about how long it's going to take for you to get things done where it's going to make a difference? And how long do you think it's going to take for the community to start supporting the things you want to do?
Yeah, I think, getting out, not just me, but the board, and explaining what we're trying to do. I think also showing that what we're trying to do is actually build equity, right? Grow equity, because it is a tale of two districts. So if we can do that a lot this summer and in the fall, I think giving the information so that they have true understanding of what we're trying to do, because what we're trying to do, I think most people in the public want, right? They want services that are more equitable. They want us to improve reading ability of our kids. They want us to prepare for the future. So all the things that I'm talking about, I think in general, most people want.
One of the things you did at one of your board meetings, you talked about some of the specific challenges as it relates to suggestions. You talked about the data from the National Assessment of Educational Progress. And that was interesting because it showed that only 32% of United States fourth graders are reading at grade level. Texas is at, by the way, that's not good, 30%.
Exactly.
That's not good at all.
That's right.
Texas is at 30%. Urban cities are a little bit less than that, but HISD is at 19% of fourth graders reading at grade level. What plans specifically are you proposing to deal with that? What is a steep deficit? There's no way to look at it otherwise.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked me about data. And it's, I gave data last night. And it's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. The real question is, can our kids read? And that's a real question. Can they do math? Are they prepared for jobs that will provide them a living wage, once they graduate? Are they prepared for the year 2035? Those are the questions. The data suggests that, right? And you can look at data in a lot of different ways. I think there's no way to look at the mass amount of data in HISD and say we're doing great. It's not that we don't have great schools. Okay, so I've said that a lot because I do want to validate the hard work that people have put into the district. And there are schools that are doing well, but then there are a lot of schools that are not doing well. We have to face those brutal facts.
So I'm going to ask you some questions about that along those lines, and I have a unique opportunity to get input from other people as well. So we're going to talk about that more from HISD Superintendent Mike Miles in a bit. And we're going to take questions posed by our KPRC2 insiders.